Good afternoon, Chicagoland, and welcome to another edition of the Green Radio Network. Here on the Green Radio Network, we'll bring you a variety of green topics and the latest information on green technology and transportation. This program features environmental leaders throughout northern Indiana and the entire nation. The Green Radio Network is sponsored by NERPC, the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, and the award-winning South Shore Clean Cities. Both entities are leaders in the environmental industry and work together to bring cleaner air and more sustainable living to northern Indiana. Now to introduce Carl Lissick, Executive Director of South Shore Clean Cities and the host of the show.
Well, thank you for that introduction. Today our guest is Mr. Bill Emerson. He's the Lake County Surveyor. Bill, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This is great.
You know, Bill, we've been talking offline a lot, and I just very amazed about a lot of the different things that you've been working on throughout the area. But one of the things that people don't know about is what do you do? What does a surveyor do for a county?
Well, that's a great question. I meet a lot of people who don't know. They think, I actually, even before I got involved in this position, I didn't really know. So it's been a kind of a learning process for me. So as the Lake County Surveyor's Office, we deal with maintaining county regulated drains is kind of one of our main focuses, which involves maintenance of open ditches, storm sewers, in some cases agricultural drain tiles. There's over 600 miles of regulated drains in Lake County alone, so
wow.
That's a big chunk of what we do and a big chunk of our budget. We also, as the title probably sounds like, we're Lake County Surveyor's Office, so we maintain survey markers for other private surveyors to base their surveys off of for development and things like that, so that the surveyors know they have an accurate starting point for their surveys. That's one thing we do. We also deal with clean water, so that we maintain we manage the MS4 department for the county.
So when you talk about the MS4, what is that? Can you explain it to our listeners?
Sure. That deals with it's kind of a federally mandated program that we run locally that deals with clean water, making sure that the waterways are clean, that construction sites are maintaining their construction sites so that they don't contaminate waterways, and also kind of monitoring those waterways.
Sure. So like on the construction sites, you see the silt fences,
right? And
so that is a mandate throughout the county area, throughout Indiana, that I see is that for the MS4 program.
Absolutely. That concrete washouts, things like that for the construction sites. We also part of one of the things we're charged with doing under the MS4 program is dealing with public outreach and education as well.
Sure. And so you work a lot with the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission in regards to different things, and just it's a lot. There's a lot of things I think as a citizen that we don't understand, and why this is important. So why is this important to the future of Northwest Indiana?
Well, clean water is one of the most basic things that we need to maintain, I think, as a government. And I think locally there's been a lot of support for the clean water efforts. I mean, everywhere from, at least in, I know in Lake County and Porter County, LaPorte County as well, along the lake, Save the Dunes, a lot of different initiatives that way. And then also going down to the Kankakee River too. I mean, there's a lot of people in this area that care about clean water, and also making sure that the water, is maintained quantity-wise too, so that there's not flooding and things like that.
A lot of the things on economic development, a lot of the national things that we attend with environmental-related alternative fuels and things, we hear a lot about, clean water, and I think just because of where we live, close to Lake Michigan, a lot of times we don't understand some of the needs and some of the wants. So like West Coast with all the droughts and a lot of the manufacturing facilities there, looking potentially as economic development, for folks coming back towards the Great Lakes area. And that's what we're hearing. So, very excited about those types of things. But, as we see these new developments, how do you keep up on, making sure that people are in compliance with these laws and regulations?
Well, any new development, at least in my jurisdictional area, the unincorporated Lake County, has to come before us for a permit. So we analyze the site plan. We look at different, and we analyze the site plan in the context of what part of the county they're in, what water management issues there are in that county. So if there's a wellhead protection area where, a lot of people have, well water and things like that. We look at that in that context as well. And also, one of the things we're focusing on too is there are a lot of septic problems in Lake County that we're addressing kind of as we can, and we have a kind of a global plan we're looking at. But we've done a lot of work in around Crown Point specifically, and also in Cal Township. We're working on some things.
And so, I mean, a lot of rural areas still in Lake County that people are not aware of, and so affecting the septic tanks. And again, it's a smelly.
It's a clean water and a quality of life issue.
So, how did you get into this? What is your background?
So I grew up in Hammond, born and raised, and I went to Purdue, Lafayette.
Boiler up.
For engineering. So I was a civil engineering major there with an emphasis in environmental and water resources. So that's kind of the background that brought me here directly. But I also went to law school in between that and what I'm doing now. So I have a good background for.
You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I am.
Busy guy. So again, I know that some of the things that we heard about. You work for the Hammond Department of Environmental Management and had some experience with air quality things, and so which we love, obviously, here at South Shore Clean Cities. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? You're working with Ron Novak, who's a legend.
Yeah. Oh, he is.
My first job out of college, guess who I worked for?
Really?
Well, I worked with, I should say. It was one of the first projects that we were, I worked remediation. Wow. And one of the first, it was a major Superfund, and that's who we worked with. With Ron Novak.
Oh,
and
wow.
I tell you, Ron was tough, and it was like, I was very intimidated, because Ron is just, anybody that's in the environmental industry really respects Ron Novak.
You said it. And I was, at the time, it was the summer after my junior year at Purdue, so it was an internship. But he was great. The whole staff was great. I helped do kind of overall kind of inventory of air pollution reporting. Based on what the companies report to the EPA, the state, and us, we kind of did a reconciliation of those numbers and met with some of them to kind of get some of that stuff resolved. But he was great. I remember, that summer he would give me articles to read and grill me on them, and he was great. He was just a great guy and a great mentor for me. So.
No, it's interesting. And so, as you talked about the 600 miles of waterways, what are some of the challenges that you face and your department faces on keeping up on all this?
Yeah, well, the biggest challenge is probably funding. That's always a challenge, is trying to get the funding to maintain and a lot of times repair, issues that happen, whether it's bank stabilization or things like that. And it's also a challenge, really knowing what's going on 600 miles of drains, because one of the main issues we face are obstructions from beaver dams. That's a big one. So, and that they're always working, always changing. So we have a great staff that does try to hit the hot spots that we have where these issues arise, and we're also doing some drone inspections too, which is really a cost savings and a really good way to see a lot of areas.
So who gets to operate the drones?
Well, we don't do it internally. It's a consultant that does it, but it's actually becoming more and more regulated, that area, so it's something that we can't do in-house.
So, as you talk about some of these technology changes, is there anything else that is changing within your system?
Well, a lot of it is kind of pretty well tested designs and things like that you just need to keep up on as far as maintaining the waterways, removing obstructions, maintaining the banks and stuff like that.
I know part of your job too is to collaborate with the other counties, with the other municipalities and stuff, and probably across the state line, being in Lake County, working in different ways. How's that going? How do you stay in? How do you communicate with these different organizations?
Well, that's a great question. There are, I think, right now, 19 different municipalities in Lake County, and we have waterways that go through most of them. So it's something that it's really communication. You got to communicate with the public works directors and different people in the different municipalities. And as everyone listening to this show knows, that water doesn't know municipal boundaries or state boundaries. So you really do have to work together. And we've worked with people on the Illinois side, more kind of specifically related to the Kankakee River and the major waterways that go into Illinois. But it's collaboration. So.
Well, you're listening to the Green Radio Network here on WIMS Radio. I'm your host, Carl Lissick. We'll be right back with the Lake County Surveyor, Mr. Bill Emerson Jr., right after this.
There's nothing more important than spending time outdoors with your family. That's why it's so important to do whatever you can to keep our air clean. It's good for the environment and good for the health of your friends and family. Take a closer look at how poor quality is affecting our community. Across the 3 counties of Northwest Indiana, recent studies from the American Lung Association show that 9% of adults suffer from asthma, 4% live with chronic bronchitis, 38% have a form of cardiovascular disease, and 10% of the children in Lake and LaPorte counties struggle with pediatric asthma. Now, the number of adults with asthma is nearly that of adults with diabetes. Consider how diabetics make adjustments to their diet in order to be as healthy as possible. Everyone can make adjustments to improve air quality and the quality of life for those who live with asthma and other lung diseases. Northwest Indiana, clean air, think green, breathe easy. A message from NERPC.
Welcome back to the Green Radio Network here on AM 1420 WIMS Radio. I'm your host, Carl Lissick of South Shore Clean Cities, here to bring you the latest information on green projects and topics across the nation. Our guest today is the Lake County Surveyor, Mr. Bill Emerson Jr. And Bill, you were just talking about some of the things that you're working with, and your office collaborates with across our state and 2 other states. So, one of the things that I just became aware of before you came on the show, you were recently appointed to the National Association of Counties Environmental, Energy, and Land Use Steering Committee. Tell our listeners that the name of this initiative is NACO and what your plans are for this position.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. So the National Association of Counties is kind of it's a way that county governments and I think even some local government people kind of try to make their voices heard on the national level for issues that are affecting them. And kind of that perspective, I think sometimes, I think the federal government can have kind of a macro view of things, but then that doesn't quite hear from the locals as much as they should. So I was absolutely happy to do this, and I'm very happy that I was nominated and appointed to it, and also happy to be on this radio show now, because I want your listeners to know that they're free to contact me with any environmental, energy, land use type issues that I can bring to the committee, but. One of the things I'm really concerned about, and I think a lot of people in the area are concerned about, are the lead situation in East Chicago.
Absolutely.
And I know it's had a huge impact financially on the city. And I know the Mayor Copeland there has been doing a lot to try to remediate some of the issues and help the residents. But it's things like that where. These big environmental issues are sometimes and are too much for local governments to handle sometime, and that's one of the things I want to bring up.
And I think from an education perspective, I mean, again, a mayor, you can't be good at everything. Let's face it. I mean, just like us, we're not good at everything, and so you rely on our support and the different governmental agencies that are located within the Lake County, Porter County, and LaPorte County areas. Making aware of that. So, so some of your responsibilities of this new position will be to what? To kind of just educate folks and collaborate with other areas of the country?
That's right. Yeah, we all kind of come together. I think there's, there are a lot of different, just doing my own initial research. We haven't had our first meeting yet.
I see.
But some of the other members of the environmental committee are from the Colorado area that was affected, the river that was affected by the mining operations in Colorado.
Absolutely.
I think that one of the local county commissioners down there is on the board. So it's a matter of bringing our local concerns to kind of the federal level on these environmental issues.
So as we talk about the future of Northwest Indiana, what do you see, say, 5 years from now, some of the changes that will maybe be coming into effect? And again, I know this isn't law, but again, I think, we're seeing so many changes that are going on with alternative fuels and energy and with our local legislation right now with road tax on alternative fuels. And again, we're hearing all these different initiatives, and I'm sure there's a lot of different changes that are going on with you.
Well, yeah, and there are, and I think with the recent elections, it's hard to tell how some of these things will go. I know one of the issues I'm looking at pretty closely are kind of the changes in the federal regulation of waterways. So what is the definition of waters of the United States, and how far that'll reach? And I think that was all up in the air the last couple of years on how far that would go. And I think time will tell. But I think and I know that the residents of I call it the region. I know this show goes all the way up into Michigan. I understand. But the people I talk to, and I believe really care deeply about the environment, and want to make sure that we maintain our environment for our future. So I think that, I think that's going to continue, at least locally, and I hope those same policies come down from the federal and state government as well.
So in regards to, some of your closing thoughts, some of the things that you want to express, if people want to get in touch with your office, how would they do that?
Absolutely. So any issues locally, or again at the federal level, if I can be of any help on this new committee appointment, you can reach me directly at Emerson, EMERSON, at LakeCountyIN.org, or you can call the office. The office number is 219-755-3745.
So, we've seen a lot of different green entities coming in and around our area. And one of the big things has been solar. Have you been getting involved with solar applications?
Not directly.
Okay.
But I'm excited by it. I think, it's interesting that, it's now become not only a great thing to do for our environment and our climate and everything else, it's financially competitive with other energy sources. So, depending on where you're at, I think in the world and how much sun exposure you have, but it's really exciting. I think we're at a time, and I think, the past 8 years or so, there's been a lot of talk about solar development and, clean energy, but we're really at a time where I think that's starting to flip and become really a financially viable source of energy.
So one of the things that we've been hearing a lot with the EPA and with Department of Energy is, things have been regulated with our on-road vehicle engines. And again, what we're hearing more is how things are going to potentially be changing on the waterways. So, there's different waterway, where we've implemented alternative fuels with vehicles on the road, potentially implementing different clean water initiatives with alternative fuels and more electric motors on boats and ships and things like that. And again, how that would impact Lake County and the surrounding area. Are you hearing a lot about, different potential changes and things going on in the industry with that?
Well, I'm not probably as up to date on that as you guys are, and I appreciate all the work you guys do, and I try to follow you guys closely. But I think that's a great idea. I think when you look at not only locally but worldwide, how much ship traffic there is, and how many products move from continent to continent. I think that would be a great thing for our climate. And
just as we round out our show today, Bill, any closing thoughts?
Well, again, I want to thank you for having me today to get the word out, and I want to thank you in general for having this show. I think it's important for the community and for a lot of people that follow these things closely. And I hope that over the next 4 years, at least for my next term here, that I can kind of continue doing the things that we've been doing, and even hopefully do more. We've done a lot as far as clean water and septic to sanitary sewer issues that really help the area, and I hope we can continue to do it. Well,
Bill, the little that I've known you, I've followed you also, and I think that's just it. I think you're interested in the future of Indiana, and I'm excited with the opportunities that you're going to bring to the table with this national exposure, but then working here locally to work with our local agencies and our local leaders and doing some of the right things. And we know that we're going to see a boom in economic development, and then how do we keep water systems running as efficiently and as clean as possible? And what we've seen is that environment and business can go hand in hand, and I think it is collaboration. And again, your attitude towards the future is very comforting to me. Is just to say is like, hey, we're going to work together. We're going to make some things happen and improve the quality of life here in Northwest Indiana. So we're excited about the future, and we'd love to have you on the show. Coming summer, to some of the updates and stuff, and thank you for being here. So
absolutely, thank you for having me.
That's great. So that will do it for today's edition of the Green Radio Network. I'm your host, Carl Lissick. Thanks again to our guest, Mr. Bill Emerson Jr., the Lake County Surveyor, and be sure to join us again on WIMS Radio and Girard Media for the next edition of the Green Radio Network, and visit us online at southshorecleancities.org. And remember, it's never too late to begin your environmental legacy. Thank you, everybody.